Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Ugandan podcast that is proudly sponsored by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. I am Rita Kanya Mujuni, your host for this particular episode. And on this episode, we're going to be talking things corruption. We're going to be talking things whistleblowing, and also one process that has just recently been concluded, that is wealth declaration for particular leaders within our government. Joining us to have this conversation, we're joined by the one and only, the Inspector General of Government. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Rita.
I skipped the part where I say her name because I need to say it with a lot of oomph and say them all. So you're most welcome, Miss Beti Olive Namisango Kamya Turwomwe.
You have the time? I could go on and on.
I'll stop at those, but you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Rita, Mrs. Mujuni, and congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
It was spectacular. I enjoyed watching it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we say technology, Kevin.
Absolutely.
Well, technology has come in for this particular podcast, and the conversation about corruption, the conversation about whistleblowing, and also wealth declaration has been one that has been on social media. I know it has kept you. You have been in the loop of all that's being said. You have also taken time to, one, have media engagements about it and different areas that you've been publicizing about the office, but also you have listened to the feedback about these things. We'll start with one where I want to get the terms right, the act right, when it comes to what particular leaders within the government were expected to do between the month of March. It happens every 2 years, and this is done based on the Leadership Code Act, which requires all political leaders and appointed leaders to declare their incomes, their assets, and liabilities, like I'd said, every 2 years. In summary, their wealth.
Yes.
How has the
Even
process
liabilities.
been? Yeah. How has the process been for this just concluded exercise?
Well, I would say, first of all, in addition to politicians and appointed leaders, there are some other categories in, say, the traditional public service, I think above the level of director, that are also categorized as leaders. In total, we're talking about 31,000 plus people out of the total of 400,000 that are listed as people who get a salary from the Consolidated Fund. So this time around, it's about the 31,000 that we talk about.
Those were 31,000 people required to declare.
Who were required to declare?
In 30 days. Okay, March, 31
yes,
days.
in 31 days.
Yes.
But they were given a lot of notice from the day that the law was passed. Everybody knows that they're supposed to declare every second March or every March of the second year. Everybody should know that. And as you know, what do you say? Lack of knowledge of the law is no defense.
Yes.
But I would say it was fairly successful up to, because we got 80.3% declaration, and even more successful because most of the institutions of government, all the ministries especially, and agencies of government, we got 100% declaration. The 20% that did not declare are largely in the local government. That would be deep in the rural.
Yeah.
So I would say it was a fairly successful
I believe it was.
exercise.
80%, that's really good, and based on how it was supposed to be done this time round, which is using the online portal. 80%, it's a good number, quite a good number.
Yes.
But what did it mean for these 80% that came online to declare their wealth and liabilities? How long would it take them? Because one would say, is it a whole day? For those that are wondering and listening and watching the podcast, take us through the process. You come online as a leader.
It's the system is fairly simple. Once you log in, of course, it prompts you. And how long it takes depends on how much you wish to declare. If you have nothing, then you go, no. If you have a lot, then you have to sit down and declare the asset and location and the cost and the source of where you got the money. You get involved in answering so many questions. But for an average person, I would say an hour.
Yeah. But wouldn't a few people get away using that kind of system? Because I could say, Rita, if I were on the other side, and with this declaration, you're like, should I put this? Will there be a question mark with this? I might say no. Quickly answer no, and leave. But the truth is, I might have more than I'd want to declare. How would wouldn't they get away with that?
It's a breach of the law to under-declare, to over-declare, to false declare, to not declare. Those are breaches under the law, punishable by very strict sanctions. So it is not wise not to tell the truth. 2, it might be to your own disadvantage, because the truth always catches up with you. Sometime in the future, you want to dispose of an asset, of your asset, and they'll say it is not yours. It is not yours because you did not declare it.
Yeah.
Or you want to, or your relative or ancestor or parent passes on, and the children want to understand the assets that they have that they need to share or to declare to the Administrator General. They come to us, and what you declared is what is yours. They cannot share with what you didn't declare. So at the end of the day, it is wise to tell the truth because it catches up with you.
It will come back. But when we talk about declaration of wealth, for a number of those who are watching the podcast and listening, there's always the question of why. Why should they declare their wealth? What is so important that the government needs to find out about the wealth and liabilities that they have?
It is a tool. People who, every public office we hold or anybody holds, you hold it in trust for the people. And the people expect you to use that stewardship with the highest degree of integrity. So that is why when you come in, you declare what you have. And it is monitored periodically so that your stewardship is also monitored. It has to be in consonant with your known source of income. If it is not in consonant with your known source of income, especially if it's way beyond your known source of income, unless you can explain it, then it means that you have not been honest in your stewardship of public resources. So it is a tool, and it is used the world over. It's not just in Uganda.
Yes.
It is used the world over.
And that's how we hold our leaders accountable.
Yes, absolutely.
While they're in office. Now, back to the declaration process. The challenges that you met with getting this 80% and the 20% that were not able to declare, what were the particular challenges that your office noticed?
Well, we try to ask people to declare at the beginning because there's a lot of room, you have a lot of time. But typical Ugandan culture, people like to do things at the last minute. So you kind of clog the system at the last minute. And that could be one of the reasons that we went into the 20%. A clogged system when everybody wants to come in the last quarter of the period that you have. So people need to give themselves plenty of time to do things without hurrying. And the other challenge was some people were challenged by technical know-how. There are many people who just have no access or who find it very difficult to access the gadget, the computer itself. And where you are, even if you have it, sometimes network is a problem. Some people deep in the village, if you're a teacher in a primary school, deep in the village, you have to get some money, load a bus or a taxi or a border to go to a trading center to be able to access a gadget that will give you that service and even pay maybe someone who's going to help you. So those are some of the difficulties that I'm sure we found. But then, of course, clogging the system at the end, because the system shuts down automatically.
Yes.
At midnight of 31st of March, the system shut down. If you're in the middle of filling in, the moment it clocked midnight, the system shut down and shut you out.
So that part, and also another is when we get to the technology side of things, was something that you highlighted. I had a minute to read the report of how it had gone, which was also the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance requiring you would need a database in place, and how important a database would be for your office.
It would make it very easy, because then we would not have to look around how many people do you have, because we need our own database to be able to know whether we needed a database to know that we achieved 80% declarations. But to look for that database was not easy because you do not have one stop center, one information center where you can just clock in and get everybody on the government payroll. Of course, you get some information from the Ministry of Public Service, you get some from the Ministry of Finance, which does the payment, you get some from the different institutions.
Yes.
But with the current advancement in technology, we should be able to click a button and get information in a second.
Yeah, and have it all ready for you to just go through.
Yes.
Okay, so the places we're learning.
You could even advise people, if you have it, you could prompt people. Give them a countdown.
Yes.
Hey, so and so, we're still waiting for your declaration. You haven't declared. I think that would help a lot.
I agree.
If there was a prompt, or there was a way to prompt people, it would help.
And I think it also speaks to the need for different MDS to work together in particular projects. And this is one that you're trying to say is not just for your office, but also the entire government.
And the entire government. There is some effort through NETAU to get a UG hub, get most all government institutions have sort of a clearing house. But it's a journey. We'll get there.
I agree. It's a journey. We have started. We're somewhere. We could be somewhere else, and we're getting there.
And the most advanced countries are not yet there.
Yes.
So we'll get there.
We're taking our steps. Actually, I think we're now past baby steps with what's been happening with the NDP3. I believe that as the government of Uganda, we have really taken some strides, and we're going to take some more.
Of course, we can do better.
Yes.
And should do better. Because we're not an island, and you're not going to say, "Hey, wait for me because I'm still doing my baby steps." No one's going to wait for you. You're going to catch up with them, or be left out.
Yes,
the boat.
That's true. That's true. Well, now we move to another side of the conversation, one that's happening online, where we have the citizen helping you in the fight against corruption, and one that you have much welcomed earlier on, which was when the civil aviation, the Entebbe airport was going through what it went through in terms of corruption and all the videos that were circulating. And even now, so many other things are happening. But on social media, we seem to have the citizen join you in the fight against corruption. How has it been like? Your first receiving?
It's wonderful, very good. And I said, when I first took office, I said the war, it must be a citizen's war. Corruption cannot be fought. It cannot be an elite war. Elites being these people who sit on this side of the bench in their air-conditioned boardrooms and 5-star hotels and business class tickets to smart European cities and civil society organizations. It has been an elitist war.
Yes. And
it's difficult to win a war when the victims do not own the war.
Yes.
Now and we said from the beginning that we would like to partner or bring in the citizens to own the war.
Yes.
And if that's our slogan, it is a citizens' war. They must own it. But they must understand why it is their war. No, it's not just activism. It's because they are victims. When you go to hospital and there's no medicine, you are the one who will die. Your child is the one. When you go on a bad road, you are the one who will pay more for the cost of the bad road in terms of raised fares. It's you who will pay. When there's no school facilities. So citizens must understand that it is their war.
Yes.
They are the victims. And so we provide leadership because we have instruments of authority. I mean, you can't just stop someone and say, I need to open your bank account and see how much money you have. But I can, because I can sign a bank inspection warrant and direct the bank manager to allow me to check so-and-so's bank account because I have the instruments of authority. But the information is with the person.
Yes.
I didn't know. Someone brings me that information and I use the authority. So it must be a partnership of people who are aggrieved and are victims and have information, and the technocrats on this side who have the instruments of authority.
And do you think that the average Ugandan citizen has grasped that idea of the power they have, the fact that they're the victim, and what they can do in this fight?
It's not. I think it's doing a great thing. I think that probably not the average, because awareness takes a while, and mindset change. It's also a mindset thing to understand that I'm a victim. Like the people who are fed up with the bad roads. I mean, finally they did understand that I am a victim.
Yes.
Because my wife delivered on the road.
Yes.
Or I couldn't even get her to hospital. So it's moving very fast, and we'll probably get there sooner than later. But awareness and mindset change are a process that takes a while.
Yes, and when we speak about awareness and that mindset change, yes, there's the citizen who's willing to put in the time and call out and maybe record that video, upload it, and call on the right people and say, as the technocrats, this is happening, this is where it's happening. Then there's one who's saying, even if I do it, will I really find justice for what's going on in our society? That question lingers a lot.
Yes. You cannot expect, I mean, it's 2,000 years since Jesus Christ, but there's still people asking those questions, and even more years, people are still asking about God. So there will always be that person who will ask the question. But the most important thing is the critical mass.
Yes.
Once the critical mass are moving forward, they will move everybody forward because they are the critical mass. That's what we need. We need a critical mass. And the beauty of this for Uganda is a very big percentage, more than 60% of our population are youthful population who are very digital minded, who think I think, well, among few things that we can say we've got something that we can really use.
Yes.
The power of the youth and ownership, and their ownership of the digital era, I think is going to be the greatest thing that's going to happen to this country, because then they are the critical mass.
Yes.
And they will drive this war.
Okay. When you say they'll drive this war, and they are driving it at the moment, it has really changed, say, from right past the pandemic, the way the citizen that approached your office of the Inspectorate of Government was totally a bit laissez-faire, if you might correct me. But now more than ever, that citizen has turned around. Yes, you say the social media platforms are where their voices are. But what have you seen? Because this is what I'm seeing on my end as one of those youth. But what do you see? The critical mass.
They're driving us.
Like the podcast is at the moment, yes. What would you say about that youth? What have you seen change over time? The face of the Ugandan citizen using digital platforms?
Well, for one, I will not definitely claim even a little credit, but I will say that that's the way. When I came into office, and we took office the same day, my deputies, the Deputy Inspector Generals of Government and myself, immediately we started saying, this is a citizens' war.
Yes.
And the citizens, you must fight this war. And when they came out, for instance, on Entebbe scandal, we went out and said, yes, this is there were people who used to say, I used to post this very much on my Twitter page, And the people would say, oh, so now you want us to fight your war and you're getting a salary?
Yeah. That you should do it, we don't help you.
No. And there are many people who are saying, so now you failed to fight the war for which you are being paid a salary. So now you're calling at citizens. It was a lot of this on my Twitter pages, on my social media pages. But now there's no more of that. That conversation has changed.
Yes.
Now they're driving it. So what I can tell them is that you're doing a great thing, but there's also, we can do it together because we have the instruments of authority that you need to achieve a lot of things, like to get people brought to book.
Yes.
To get people brought to book, to get policymakers change policy or formulate policy, to get managers of the consolidated fund to do what they're supposed to do. So those are the people on the side of government. There are people who can now respond positively to your activism. But the activism prompts this response. So it's an excellent partnership. And that's the way it should be.
Yes, and it takes two to tango.
Yes, and in Europe, for instance, I will tell you, almost everybody is a state spy. You look over, they look out. You cannot just abuse a child, the neighbor will call the police. You cut a tree in your garden, you're not supposed to cut it, neighbor will call the police. So everybody is almost a state is involved in ensuring rule of law.
And I think we hear it for each citizen out there. You have a part to play with what the government of Uganda is doing. You're a citizen too. Before you hold office, you're a citizen too. So this is a part of the podcast where we usually take a break from the serious part of it and get to know you. Before the office that you hold, who you are as Ugandan. We usually have 3 questions. The first one for today, for you in particular, is what is your favorite Ugandan holiday? You know, here in Uganda, we don't have things like a winter Christmas and all, but when we talk about Christmas, we talk about eating food and we talk about family.
Going to the village
exactly. There's Easter. What is yours?
My favorite, it depends really on even the year. You know, like a couple of years ago, we had so many weddings, so in the family. So the season is, the weddings are going to be in December. So December is going to be a great year, a great month because family are coming from all over the world. That is that year. You're preparing for that. At another time, you are preparing a christening, babies on the way.
Yes.
Really, I in my status as a grandmother of living on the 6th floor of life, I think I have so many options, really.
You must have a lot because Easter will come with christening.
Yes.
December, like you mentioned, will come Christmas and weddings.
And then the baby's coming all the time and I want to go take time off to go and spend. Now my grandchildren are starting their holidays. Have started their holidays, so I want to take time off. So as a grandmother, I have a lot of options.
You really do. You really do. One would say that for you, the holiday is all year long, depending on the season.
Yeah.
So the second question will be, what's your favorite food? Ugandan.
My favorite food is matoke and vinyewa.
Without katiko, I was about to go into Uganda. No katiko, no beef.
Sim.
Oh,
yes, vinyewa and sim. That one, I had to burn it from my house for a while. Because if I didn't burn it, I was just going to get out of control. So
it's all you wanted to have.
I just love matoke, well-made yellow matoke and groundnut sauce with sim.
And you're good to go.
I'm good to go.
Is it what we'd call, I think umuwumba? The matoke.
Omuwumbo.
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 I'm now saying it from my from my native side of things. Yes. Okay, so we now know that matoke, top of the list. I think we've had in the space of...
don't tempt me when I visit you and cook a lot of... because I will eat it. I also like a shabwe very much with my connections now.
Yes.
My husband, my husband was a Mnyankore. So through that connection, I got to like a shabwe very much.
Can you make it? Do you have an idea of making it?
Let me concentrate on eating it.
I agree. It's not one of the easiest things to. It's not one of the easiest things to make. In Uganda, I know that you've had the ability and have been blessed with the opportunity of moving to different parts of the country. Is there any that you say steals your heart? And if they told you have a free week where you get to rest, what would it be that you'd like to go to?
Well, Uganda is a beautiful country.
It is.
Uganda is a beautiful country, but I think that far western Uganda is very beautiful. Kigezi is beautiful. Toro is beautiful. Uganda is a beautiful country.
It really is. We have really been blessed to have lived and grown up around such a country.
Absolutely.
Our last question is now from Kampala. Your fondest memory in Kampala city? Ours, some will say theirs is a pothole, but it's not. There are some really good ones.
Well, Kampala, I was almost raised in Kampala, bred in Kampala. And some of my really beautiful memories were when I was young. And, those days my father would put us in the car and take us for a ride. And those days we used to have cars where you have flash discs now. We used to have record players. This round disc, really big round disc. And you put it in the car. And my father's favorite, of course, was Jim Reeves. And those were very beautiful. I have those beautiful memories.
Was that usually on Sundays or past the weekend, even on weekdays? Maybe he would...
Because he used to work away from home, but came every weekend, came home. And so we spent time with him on weekends, and he would take us for rides. And
Jim Reeves would play.
And Jim Reeves would play, and others too.
Okay.
But those were the early memories. But then there's the teenager days.
Yes.
When it was about discos and who
and
danced.
the big hair. I bet there was the Afro
the
time.
Afro time.
Yes.
Yeah, those were different times as well. They're different times. They're all beautiful memories.
And now they are these
some
times.
sad memories, of course.
Yes. And now you're here in these times.
Now I'm here in these times. I spend a lot of time with my grandchildren, with my family. That's my best time.
Yeah.
But also alone, I like to meditate and spend some time alone.
Some quiet time.
It's not easy to come by.
I can
So
agree.
when it comes by, it's very precious.
I know for someone you say meditating, I know someone is out there wondering, how do you sit down and just choose to be alone? But it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. It gives you peace of mind and
I mean, you kind of, it's like yoga. You go inside yourself and
retrospection.
And keep quiet, and everything is quiet. They're not easy to come by. They're precious moments when
but you get them and you hold on to them. Now we're going back to the serious business. Back to the serious part of the podcast. We've mentioned about the citizen and what they can do, and part of your office also handling the whistleblower complaints. There are many who, by the way, when you whistleblow, there's a particular amount of money you are given. But that shouldn't be the driving force of it all. But we want to talk about how you handle these complaints and what has the success been of these complaints that are brought.
One, Parliament enacted the Whistleblowers Act. And among other things, when a whistleblower their information leads to recovery of funds, then they get 5% of the funds recovered. So it's not like every time you take information,
you get
some money. No.
Yes.
It is when the information you give leads us to recover money. Then you get 5% of that money. And I want to call on particularly the low-level management in public institutions. They have a lot of information. They are used, but they're not beneficiaries. I'll give you an example. The low-level, a cashier, for instance, who is the banking agent of a big institution, will be sent to the bank to withdraw 500 million. He will bring it and give, and these are real-life cases on my desk. Bring it to the boss, and he's supposed to construct a road, but the road doesn't get constructed.
Yes.
But the cashier knows that he brought the money.
Yes.
But the boss gave him 2 million.
I said, thank you.
And said, thank you, put it in there, put it there. Or the boss keeps taking it.
Yes.
And this Kashi has a lot of information. But because he thinks he's the boss. Now, I'm calling on these people, don't sit on this information. You fight your own, everybody should use their space to fight this war.
Yes.
There are people who will go on Twitter, on social media, they're doing a great job, but they don't give us evidence sometimes. But you, who is in that institution, you can even give us evidence, which will lead us to recover that money. Use your space. There is the driver who knows where the boss goes and
where that money is taken.
And where that money is taken.
Yes.
And which houses are being constructed in a different person's name. Use your space. This is everybody's war. Use your space. And people are crying of low salaries by government. Government cannot raise salaries when all the money is being stolen.
Yes.
We have had a research, and the findings of that research is that government loses up to 10 trillion shillings per year to corruption. Now, we have our work cut out in the short term. Let's save this outflow of 10 trillion shillings per year.
Yes.
Then when you ask for a salary raise, the money will be there.
But one would say, how will I then be protected? Because as a cashier, I don't want to lose my job. This person...
no one is going to know. I'm not going to say who told me. I'm not going to say. In any case, if he's in jail, what will he do to you? And when I've confiscated all his things and he's recovered all the money,
yes,
he will need you to even give him something to help him.
He'll be coming back to you.
To help. So I'm calling on everybody to use your space to fight this war. Not everybody will go to court to give evidence.
Yes.
Some people will. Not everybody can get me that receipt, fake receipt in the...
But you know about that fake receipt. But you know that
fake receipt. You can get it to me.
Yes.
And you can do the social media activism. You, everybody, please use your space to fight this war. That's your weapon.
Okay. When we get into how we fight it and what we aim to see come from this whistleblowing is the recovery. You talk about the recovery. How
Even
much money?
Prevention.
It's the prevention, but
both and recovery. Yes.
Yes. For now, those who the money has been taken, the money perhaps hasn't been used, maybe, hopefully, but still, that money can be gotten back. The question remains that in the previous year, as the office, you made sure your office, the Inspectorate of Government, came out to talk about how every single, from what had been collected, we know that from the whistleblowers, about 30 billion shillings is recovered. Yes. So little, one would say so little from all.
Yes, so little really, but only because those are the cases that are brought to us. But the cases that are not brought to us are 10 trillion when we don't get to know.
Yes.
And when we get, so now we are going to be more, we've decided to be more proactive rather than desk chair inspectors who wait for information. We discussed this in our boardroom and we just agreed that we are going to be inspectors of government.
What does that mean?
And inspectors of government means you get off your chair and go out there and inspect every aspect of government business. Without notice, without authorization, just go there and do spot checks like an inspector. So we're having our own mindset change from technocrats to inspectors. And inspectors to inspect every aspect of government business.
Have you been successful yet with the change, the mindset change?
Well, you can't say it's going to be successful. I mean, it's something we've decided to adopt. And so we are still on
how to
get set.
Yes.
But I want to inform the public that we've changed our methods of work. We are going to be inspectors of government, and you can expect us to pounce on you anytime without notice.
So be
We'll
prepared.
just come here and ask for your books and do a head count of your staff. Because one of the outlets
Yes.
is inflated government payroll. So if we just come here and say, I want a head count of your staff, and then I want your payroll and your staff list, and I compare it with the Minister of Finance, I would know whether there's an inflated payroll or not. So we're just going to be more proactive.
Okay. So for those within these different MDAs, actually, it's to make sure the books tally with what you have on the ground, the lists, and what we'd call the ghost workers. But one of the things, as you mentioned, that particular area, that requires that your office is going to need more foot soldiers. And it's a complaint that you have raised before of understaffing. So when you look at how many people you have vis-a-vis the work that you'd want to get into, how possible is it, and also the work you already have? Yeah. How are the numbers going to change?
And this is something we've also discussed, I think, just yesterday. Yes, understaffing was seen as a problem, but now when you start thinking digital, it may not be a problem anymore because you're supposed to use more digital where there was more physical.
Yes.
Where there was more muscle and more physical. And I think we shall be exploring innovations to get all this information without necessarily foot soldiers literally footing to the ministry to find out. I should be able to log in Ministry of Lands and get information about their payroll and log in on the Ministry of Public Service and see whether that tallies, and log in with the Ministry of Finance and see whether that tallies with the releases from Ministry of Finance. We should be able to do a lot of work with technological innovations than rely on physical, literal foot soldiering.
Yes. So it's to embrace that and see how much you can leverage from it as you use what would say the physical.
Absolutely.
So both will go hand in hand.
So I think we need to go back to the drawing board and see and try to maximize at least available digital facilities and also push for innovations.
Okay, so this is a moment for whoever might have an application that could perhaps...
Absolutely.
Yes.
We'll be very happy to listen to as many proposals on innovations. We discussed this just this week. We said we are going to have a retreat and review our resource, the way we expend our resources. Because I think most of government, including the Inspectorate of Government, the management, the human resource, takes up more than 50% of the cost of managing or running an institution. Almost 60% is in human resource.
Yes.
But can we bring that down so that there's more money for real work, for the real work? A lot of money goes in and everybody almost cries, we need more people. And people who are reviewing MDA structures, they are even expanding them, as if we're not in the digital era.
Like how we bring technology to leverage. It hasn't hit home yet.
So I think really you need 50 investigators to get this work done. Now you have 30, so they blot the human the structure.
Yes.
But we should be thinking, we have 30, can we do this work with 10?
Yes.
And replace these 10 with a computer?
And it's possible. It's very possible.
Absolutely.
Yes, but some would be worried about their jobs that already exist.
No, but there's a lot of other jobs too they can do. If you push them in the right direction, they can do the apps, they can give us the...
Yeah.
Especially, I'm so proud that we have the critical mass being young people who are E-driven.
Yes. Well, that critical mass, that E-driven mass, has had quite a number of questions in a conversation that I know we cannot end the podcast without having something from you to say about it. From when it started, how it's going at the moment, the elephant in the room, which continues to be the Mabati scandal, the iron sheet scandal.
Do we have to talk about it?
We can't run away from what the ordinary Ugandan's conversation has been. As even you woke up to it. I was a Ugandan who woke up to it and wondered how could these particular iron sheets be misused, yet they were for a particular vulnerable group of people. That's the Karamoja sub-region. And many wondering, okay, we have gotten to this point as we're having and recording this episode. Particular ministers have been charged. One is currently still in a prison on remand. The two are out on bail. But they wonder, the list was quite long when it came out. As the office of the Inspectorate of Government, what's your comment as to how far the investigations have gone, and how can Ugandans have confidence to see that such things won't be happening? Because many are saying, it happens. These things happen, and it will come, it will go.
Sad.
Yes.
You see, information is largely media-driven. While that's a good thing for media to provide information, sometimes and many times it is different from the reality on the ground. And that's where the problem comes, where people think that you are not very effective.
Yes.
Because I'll just put it this way. There are actually 6 affirmative action ministries in the office of the Prime Minister. The Ministry for Karamoja, Ministry of Northern Uganda, Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Ministry of Teso, Luwero, Bunyoro. There are actually 6 ministries. And each of those ministries had their work plan. And in the work plan, some of them had iron sheets. Yes,
The iron
mabati,
sheets, yes.
as some of the things they must buy, and also had a budget for it. So some of them, yes, they took mabatis, but out of the budgets of their ministries, which are not Karamoja, and actually took them to their regions, which were budgeted for. So when you get to unpack all this, you find that the story was sort of one-sided, but there's another side of the story.
Yes.
That is why prosecutors are having a problem, one, to respond to the mass demands for action and the political issues, and the other one, to take the right information to court.
Yes.
And of course, court will want evidence beyond reasonable doubt. That's what the DPP is having a problem with, to get evidence beyond reasonable doubt. That is one aspect. But for us, as Inspectorate of Government, we have left investigating people to the institutions of government that are already doing that, like the DPP and also State House. We have decided to look at the bigger picture, which is the entire relief function for the past 2 financial years. And we are auditing more the process. In the process is where the policy originated, and then the budgeting and the procurement systems and delivery and stores management and the distribution policies. So we are auditing the entire chain, from the policy level, which initiated this, right down through procurement to storage to distribution and to mobilization.
And what do you hope to see or gather from that?
What I know is, and what we know at the Inspectorate of Government, is that something like that, what we call corruption, happens at the tail end of a process that begins by cracks in the system, by violating rules, laws, and regulations. When you violate the rules, laws, and regulations, you get cracks along the chain, and you end up with corruption, abuse of office, sectarianism, nepotism, all those things come at the end of a chain. So when you look at them, you're actually doing a post-mortem.
Yes.
You need to go to the source of the problem, and that's what we are doing.
Okay, I know we'll be back to have this conversation and see what did you unearth later on.
I'm sure that we shall have answers.
Well, our last part of the podcast, this is usually advice, and we wanted to give some advice to the Ugandan who's watching and listening and has doubt, because a number of times they're saying, well, we'll have this conversation and it ends there. To have faith, you have mentioned where they come in as a citizen to help you in the fight against corruption. But what faith should they have in the Inspectorate of Government?
We have fought wars in Uganda and in Africa. And we have won wars. But in the wars, there were people, the naysayers, the people who were slow to get on board. We fought the war of colonialism. It was a big war.
Yes, it was.
It was a big war because it was right in the mind, beginning with your color and your personality. You're not as good as the other person.
Yeah.
So we fought the war of colonialism. We fought the war of, we fought the Sluwero, the war that brought in the NRM. We fought wars against genital mutilation, female genital mutilations. We're fighting wars against marginalization of different communities. So there are many wars that we must fight. But it begins with again, it can even begin, not even a critical mass. Mass comes in the middle, but it begins with a conviction, a few people, or even one person with serious conviction that this war can be won, and then the others will get on board.
Yes.
So in the Inspectorate of Government, we are sure this is a big war. It's a huge war. It's a wild war. But with the right strategies and the right communication, especially communication strategies, this is the war that can be won to a large extent.
Yes.
We only need to be there. And our biggest partners will be, of course, the media. The media, the press. You are going to be you already are our biggest partners in this war. We believe in it. We'll win it.
Okay. Well, that one person that perhaps could change and be a part of the war is one who's listening to the podcast today. Wherever you are, you've listened, you've watched. Thank you so much for joining us on the Ugandan podcast. The conversation has been about corruption, the whistleblowers, and so many other things. But one thing that has stood out is through the corruption fight, you, the citizen, are at the center of this particular war.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining us, the Inspector of Government.
Thank you.
Inspector General of Government, forgive me there. Beti Kamya Turwomwe. I'd say that very Namisango. I've used all the government names today. Thank you for joining us once again. This podcast is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and across all 6 platforms you can share, you can like, and you can tell another citizen to join the fight against corruption within Uganda. From us to you, keep Ugandan. Thank you once again.
Very much.